Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Figured Out Friday to you all. Happy Figured Out Friday to you. I hope everybody's having a great Friday, a great week. Put Happy Friday in the chat. Put Happy Friday in the chat. Put Friday in the chat. Just get excited. I mean, I just get excited when I see Chad's background. I mean, it doesn't look the same all. There's some things going on over there. He is just next level, all next level over there. Good morning, Latrice. Wendy, good morning. Deanne, good morning. We got two Wendy's this morning. Two Wendy's this morning. John Root. John Root, what's up, brother? Alicia, Sydney. Good morning to you all. Good morning to you as you are coming in. I'm very excited about today's show. First, is everybody's putting Happy Friday in the chat? Is everybody's putting Happy Friday in the chat? I want to give a shout out to Rebecca. Rebecca's traveling today, so she unfortunately was not able to make it. What's up, Dusty? Michelle. Good morning, Michelle. And this is how the family tree. I always like when I get ready to do these type of podcasts, I'm always like, all right, how did this start? Like, where did this came from? And it really came from the family tree of the Michael Burt, where Chad Free and Xena had an event, and Xena did the Amplify here in Charlotte. And that's where I met Derek and Rebecca. Needless to say, where that took place. And Rebecca was the one that brought in Jenny. And Jenny All is one of our previous guests that we've had on the show from Rebecca. But then we go through the other tree of the Tim story. And with Tim's story, you have Michelle, you got John's also part of the Burt tree. So there's several different trees that line up. And so a couple weeks ago, when I was at Amplify, and was it no Aspire? I was at Aspire, and Jenny and I were texting back and forth, and she's like, "I'm gonna be in Charlotte, and Vinny's gonna be there." And Jenny and I had the conversation like, "You got to meet my husband, great guy, and like he was from The Biggest Loser, from the TV show, and he sings and all this stuff." And I got to dive in a little bit deeper on Vinny and who he was, and learning more about Jenny. And then I got to meet them in Charlotte. Now, all Jay, show the picture. Just bring up that one picture that I shared with you that we got from him, just to give you a perspective all of the size of this gentleman. And so, thank you, Jay. So you could see the comparison between Jenny and Vinny. And so I'm like in the room. I go into the room. It's the VIP room, because we're very important people, all right. And so I look over and I'm like, that's got to be Vinny. That has got to be Vinny. And I go there all, and let me this, and like guys, and I say this as a compliment to Vinny, and I know he, after speaking with the gentleman, he's gonna be okay when I say this. Like, you see this man, and he's like, he's the sweetest teddy bear. He is so down to earth, such a nice guy. Like, because you look at like perception. We talk about the book. You can't judge a book by a cover, but like he's just a big man, and you go to him, and you're like, I wonder how this guy. Like, I lose my hand when I shake him. The nicest guy, the nicest. We gave him the bro hug, and just really, and then I'm just like, well, it makes sense. Jenny's such a sweet, amazing person. And then I mean, I don't know, we talked for 15, 20 minutes, and just was able, I was like, listen, this is what we should do. And I can't wait to have you on the show. And so I got to meet him in Charlotte. And then I wanted to do some research, because I'm one of those psychos, right, Chad? I hunt you down. I hunt you down. I look at you. I find about you. So guess what? I found a video on Vinny. I found a video on Vinny, and Vinny's like, I have no idea what he's about to show. They have no clue what I'm about to show right here. But I picked certain spot all. Okay, there's certain sections that I picked of this video, and I want you to listen to the words, especially the last words, because I told Jay, I said, stop it off at this second mark. And then I'm going to introduce you all, reintroduce Jenny, and I bring Vinny to the stage here. So Jay, if you could play this for me. Oh, we got no video, Jay. We got no video. Or no music. I'm sorry, no music. We're going to do a take two all. We're going to do take two. Now, Vinny knows which video we're about to show him right over here. But first of all, it's about football, and I love football. And secondly, though, he's a songwriter, and he talks about his story. And so let's see if we can get it again here. But I just love the words that he was using. And then it just reminded me of my coaching days with the high school kids. And just seeing what he did. And I don't know the behind the scenes of the video in the high school, but I guess we're not gonna be able to get it. We're not gonna be able to get it. But oh, maybe we are. Maybe we are. We're gonna try one more time. I guess we're not. All right. It's okay. Maybe can you everybody hear it, or is it just me? Can't hear it. It's all good. All good. Let's see. Super fine. Nope, can't hear it. All right, it's all good. So what I'll tell with you, and I'll bring them on, and maybe we get the video towards the end there. But he talks about his life and he talks about his story in the like he defined his own story. And I want you to put in the chat all how many of you are writing your own story right now? Put a 7 in the chat. How many of you are writing your own story right now? And we'll try to get the video so you can hear the words. But the words were between the seconds of 40 and 43 and 44. And he talks about writing his own story. And Jenny and Vinny have a story in themselves. We all have a story. Frank talked about this on the previous Figured Out Friday, that we all have a story. God gave us all a story to tell other people. It is when the moment comes that we're ready to express it, though. Because I guarantee it, when we talk about Vinny, he wasn't ready to share his story, y'all. Jenny wasn't ready to bring to the stage and like, let's talk about this, honey. Hey, let's do this. Vinny's probably like in certain moments, damn, what the F am I doing? And let's just be real, all. How many of us probably say that to ourselves? Like, what, when am I gonna, like, how many of you heard the line, draw a line in the sand? And I guarantee you, Vinny had that moment. And I guarantee you, when they got together, Jenny got together and be like, you know what? I don't know, but we're gonna figure this out. So put some love in the chat, put some hearts in the chat, put some 5s in the chat, and let's give a warm welcome, a family welcome to Jenny and Vinny. Good morning to y'all. Good morning to you guys.
Hello, hello. We are Bigg Vinny and Little Jenny. We are so excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to come on here and meet so many great folks. And I don't know if everybody's, from the Charlotte area or if everybody's from spread out all over, but nice to meet everybody.
We are spread out from the western side. We go all the way to Alaska, to Oregon, to Massachusetts, to Florida, to Michigan, to Texas, to Virginia, Tennessee, South Carolina. I'm just kind of like going through the list here of who I see on here in the states. It's like I just had like a geography quiz to like just see where everybody's at. So but welcome, guys. It was a pleasure being able to meet you both in Charlotte. And thank you, guys. And Jenny, thank you for coming back. And Vinny, it is great to see you again, man.
Yeah, you too, bud. And this all came about from Becca Black, who I met at my buddy David Williams' event down in Miami with David Meltzer and Tim Story and those guys. And she was just like, "Hey, I need to get your wife on this thing." I was like, "Cool, do it." And they got introduced. Obviously, she was talking about her skincare line and all that. And I was like, "Well, you need to meet my wife. She's always looking for the next greatest thing in skincare." So, and me, I just use Dove or Irish Spring Sport. So.
Well, it looks good on you. It looks good on you, man. So, Jenny, tell us a little bit about, because your marriage, your relationship, when I was listening to it, was not like one that is, that we see in fairy tales and everything else like that. There were some ups and downs in reference to it. So kind of just give us a quick overview of how you and Vinny, came together and what that was like, where you had to have some figuring out moments and go through this relationship and what that was about for you.
Yeah, definitely. So our story is really cool and really long. So I'm going to make it super short, as short as I can. But we met really young, both in the music days. And the first time I ever saw Vinny, he was about 500 pounds in his overalls. He was the life of the party. Like you walk in the room and you know that Vinny's there and everybody's around him. And then, I just took
That's because
notes.
I was the size of a planet and they had to orbit around me.
But we were both doing the music scene back in the day. And that's what brought us both to Nashville. And his band went on and got a record deal with Toby Keith. And so, I just kind of followed the journey. I thought it was so cool. And then I know he'll talk about his Biggest Loser days, but when he was on the show, I was a big fan of the show. So I'm a personal trainer. I've been a trainer since I was in my 20s, since college. And I was just a massive fan of the show. Thought it was so cool. I knew someone on the show. Well, turns out we actually got to work out together right before the finale. So they send the final four home to their hometowns to train for the finale. And the only way Vinny could be around people was to invite them to these workouts. He was working out all day in these boot camps. He had to stay kind of hidden because he had lost so much weight. And, they were still filming and things. So I was one of probably 100 people. He messaged and said, "Hey, come work out with me." And
I was trying to get anybody I could around. I'm a socialite, so I wasn't allowed to be out in public. So it's like, hey, dude, the only way I can talk to people is if they come to these 5, 6, and 7 a.m. boot camps with me.
and at that time, I was
Crazy.
teaching like 20 boot camps a week. I taught for every gym in town. But I was like, I'm going to go. Maybe I can get him as one of my clients
I
off
was
of the
I was
show.
I was a business transaction. That's what this was. No, that's what she was thinking in her brain though. So.
Right.
I clearly saw he had his Biggest Loser trainer. And but anyway, we never talked. We high-fived at the end of the boot camps, and then we didn't reconnect till 5 years after that. At that point, I was supposed to open up my own martial arts studio. He was very successful, in music and everything. And he reached out to me because I was in the bodybuilding world and he had just been kind of following my journey. And he hit me up on Facebook and wanted to ask
I
me
slid in those
questions.
DMs, y'all. I slid right up.
It was a tough time for both of us because we were both married before. We were actually just getting out of those situations.
Yeah. Newly divorced.
Very newly. And I had sworn I would never get married again. I was not going to talk to anybody. And then Vinny. And I'm like, Vinny is the nicest guy. Like, I can't not answer him back.
Well, and I messaged her, she was part of Team Haynes, which is probably the best bodybuilding team in Tennessee. So she was part of that team, and I'd lost all this weight, and I'd had my skin surgery. I mean, I had 15 pounds of excess skin hanging all the way around my body, and 15 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's just excess skin, trust me, it's a lot. And it was hanging all around my body and everything. I got that cut off, and then I started to see the outline of my abs, and I started to see all the hard work that I put in. Before that, I could see it kind of, but I was overshadowed by that big old hanging piece of skin. And so now I'm starting to feel my Wheaties. So literally when I hit her up, it wasn't, "Hey girl, what's up? Let's hang out." Because I was the same way. I'm like, I ain't never getting married again. You couldn't convince me. Ain't no way, ain't no woman in this world, or man for that matter, that convinced me to ever get married again. And then sure enough, we went on our first little meeting. It wasn't even a date. We met at Whole Foods because she was a week or 2 weeks out of a bodybuilding competition. And I bought us asparagus and chicken and watermelon and some Cliff Bars because I thought that's a healthy meal. I get there, I can only eat the asparagus and chicken. I'm like, "Wow." She goes, "I'm about to get on stage in 2 weeks." I'm like, "Dang, you can't even have watermelon?" She's like, "No." I was like,
No.
and I started thinking right there was the moment I was like, "Yeah, I ain't doing this bodybuilding shit." So, you can't have no watermelon. Come on with it. But anyway, so we ended up hanging out that day and getting to know each other, both finding out, we didn't even know at the time that both of us were going through divorces. Mine was done. Hers lasted 3 years. It was a big mess because her ex-husband was a
Oh,
lawyer.
I get it. I get that.
But she went through all that and everything else. So through that time, we started to realize like, man, actually for me that first day, I was like, dude, I'd marry that girl.
Well,
I mean,
I
she
had a
was,
checklist, and Vinny was actually checking all the boxes,
yeah.
which I was like, really, Vinny? Like, I've known him, and I've never thought of him in that light.
It's funny
Hey,
how it all.
Until that
It's
day.
I thought
funny
it was
how
love at
all,
first
like,
sight. I thought it was love at first sight. Turns out she had to get to know me more.
Isn't it? I feel the alignment sometimes our plan and God's plan are different. It's like, well, I thought this was what I wanted. I thought this was going to happen this way. And sometimes what we think is the right person is just setting us up to build our inner self. And so I want to ask you these questions. And the first question for you, Vinny, is so, going on the show, you lost close to 245 pounds, 250 pounds. I mean, that's like, two people. And it's just like your mindset of what you're doing. Like, what made you? Like, where were you? Because there's somebody on here who's contemplating things in their head. They're thinking about things right now, yet they don't have the confidence, whatever it might be, financially, body weight, whatever problem they have inside. I'm speaking to somebody right now. I know it because we all have this. So you're laying in bed, 500 pounds, probably calling yourself a fat ass, probably talking to yourself in such a negative connotation. At what point, like, this is my where I'm like, I wonder when he did this. Like, when did you be like, I'm going to try out for that show, The Biggest Loser. I'm going to go and I'm going to do something bodacious, something crazy, something off the wall, something that so many people are going to probably think, what the hell are you doing? Because many of us, I got to believe, are nervous about saying our goals and our dreams because somebody's going to sabotage them. So how did you get that mindset to be on that show, to be in the eye of the public? Like, what was going through your head, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So there was a couple of different moments for me. Now I was the opposite of what you just said. I thought I was the sexiest dude in the world. I did. If you would have been around me, I'd have been like, I'm the sexiest dude to ever walk the face of the planet. If I guess back then I used to say if Brad Pitt walked in, but if Chris Hemsworth walked in, I'd be like, hey, number two, get behind me, which was convenient because if he got behind me, you couldn't see him. So it actually turned out good. But I thought I was the sexiest dude in the world, and I was nice and humble in that way. In a way, it was like I loved everybody. But I believed my own hype in my head. I was on tour with Toby Keith. I had a top 20 song on the radio. We were nominated for a CMT award. Had all these great things going on. I was surrounded by beautiful women who all had an affinity for me. I don't know if that was true or not, but the rest of it. Yeah, no, I thought I was great. And what happened for me is there's two different moments. One moment, we were downtown partying one night, hanging out, everything. I'm 26 years old, at the time, 27, maybe 2010, whatever I was then. And it was right before we had the flood and everything. But we were down there partying downtown, and we get done and we're on the seventh floor of this parking garage. Well, when we get back to the garage, the elevator's not working. So we had to walk up 7 flights of stairs to go up there and do it or whatever. And I was complaining. I was like, dude, it's a bunch of crap. I mean, who can't keep the damn elevators fixed? I was complaining. I was mad. And then my buddy, who was drunk as he could possibly be, he goes, "That's a thing about a guy with no legs." And I said, "What?" He goes, "He'd give anything to walk up these stairs." And I
Mm.
was like, "Holy crap!" And I was like, he goes, "Look," he goes, "I'll go get the car and bring it down." Now he was hammered drunk, so I wasn't gonna let him go get the car anyway. But I'm like, no, no. After what you just said to me, I'm gonna have to walk up these stairs. And it took me some time, and I got to the top of those stairs, and I was out of breath, and I felt terrible about myself. And that was the moment that I kind of started realizing, like, dude, you might need to make a change. Well, then we had the flood, and or right before the flood, also my buddy Keith Johnson, who's one of my best friends, comes to me and says, "Hey, man, I just want to talk to you about something. You're extremely overweight, and I love you, and I don't want to see you die." And I got so mad at him, and I told him off, and I was like, "Dude, how dare you? I mean, I'm living my dream, and I'm making everything happen, and all this other stuff." I know a lot of people say how you do anything is how you do everything, but it's not really true because I didn't care nothing about my health and fitness and all that stuff. But I woke up every day and I grinded and I worked and I made sure I got the record deal and I wrote songs every day and I built my career. And so I didn't pay attention to my health and fitness, but I paid attention to my career. But anyway, I called him back about an hour after that conversation, and I said, "Man, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have talked to you like that, and I would love to have your help." And he kind of took me in, started working with me some. Lost about 40 or 50 pounds. Things were going great. The flood happened. He's a safety engineer, and the BP oil spill happened, and he had to go down to the Gulf actually and work on that. so that was kind of the first little sessions. And then what really made me finally make the decision was a necessity. I went out to LA to audition for Dumb and Dumber 2. And the first time they were going to make it. My lawyer is Cindy Fairley, who is the Fairley brothers. If y'all know who that is, they did Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, Something About Mary, all the best comedy movies ever. Um, she was my lawyer out there for my music and all my other stuff what we do when we do stuff in LA. And I wanted to go and audition for this Dumb and Dumber 2. So I went and I met with her and she's like, "Man, I think you're great. You're awesome." But I was like, "What?" She goes, "We can have you in the movie and you can be the fat guy on in a Speedo running through the beach or whatever. And we'll usually a slapstick and it'll be fun. You'll make a little money." She goes, "But I think you could be bigger than that. I think you could do Kevin James, John Candy, uh, you know, um, all those, the greats, Chris Farley. And I was like, "Dude, you really think I could be that?" I was like, "Well, they're all big guys." She goes, "Yeah, they all weigh in about 300 pounds. Now, John Candy before the end, he got up to probably 400 pounds, but she goes, "You weigh 500 pounds. You're like twice the size of them almost. So you're going to have to, lose weight because on the screen, we got to be able to put you on camera with somebody else. So you take up the whole damn screen." So I was like, "Okay." And so I was a little mad, but, I also realized I had to do what she said. So I thought, well, I'll lose some weight. Well, that night, I got home to my brother's house. He lived in LA at the time, and I had this massive knot come up on my leg. And I went and, of course, WebMD'd it like we all do, right? And
Right.
WebMD told me it was either cancer or a hernia. So I went with hernia. And I was like, well, I'll get that fixed sometime. Turns out I end up flying home, go to the hospital and find out, and it's on Super Bowl Sunday. I go to the hospital and find out that I have what's called cellulitis in my leg, and it's being caused because I'm a type 2 diabetic and my blood sugar was over 500, and I had all these other health issues because of my weight. And so basically about 6 days after laying there in the hospital having emergency surgery to pull this out so that I didn't lose I was in danger of losing my left leg because it could have turned into gangrene and all this other stuff. um, I got a call from a friend of mine named Dana DeSilvio, and she said, "Hey, they're auditioning for people for Biggest Loser." I'm like, "I ain't doing that stupid show." I was like, I said, "All they're trying to do is make fun of fat people." Anyways, after I got my ego out of the way, I kind of called her back, and then the next thing you know, I was auditioning for the show, and it was a necessity thing. I was blessed to get that opportunity. I actually lost about 70 something pounds before I went on the show, because I had to go ahead and start my diabetic diet, and don't go by the one they hand you in the hospital. You gotta work with somebody that knows how to actually make a real diabetic
Mm.
diet, because the stuff they give you there, they're telling you to eat oatmeal in the morning. That's not going to be a good thing for you if you're diabetic. But either way, I actually, went on the show. I lost 186 on the show. I lost 75 or 76 pounds beforehand, and was, actually 74 pounds beforehand. That's if I weighed exactly 500. The scale would only go up to 500. So that's all we know that I weighed. I don't know how much I actually weighed. So, but I'd lost a
Wow.
bunch of weight beforehand, got out there and was blessed, made the final four and changed my life. One of the cool things that happened while I was out there, whenever I was first doing it, I was like, "Dude, this will help my career and I'll be on TV." And that was my mindset going out there. And I was like, I can show everybody that I can do it. So I always wanted to kind of use my successes in life. I was severely beaten as a child. My stepdad was a psycho, and I went through a whole lot of really hard stuff, which is what led me to being 500 pounds. Nobody gets to 500 pounds just by being fat and lazy. There's some trauma in there somewhere that makes it happen. And that's for most addictions.
Well, I
My,
was going to ask you that because when I looked at, a little bit about your past, there's a lot of people who've been on the show who've had turbulent, challenging upbringings, as well as I was reading that, being homeless at the age of 14.
Mhm.
Eric Thomas, one of the motivational speakers I listened to, was also
Love him.
homeless. And it drives people. So I'm a very big believer that previous experiences make today's decisions. Do you think those previous experiences that you were going through harmed you and helped you?
Oh, absolutely. People ask me all the time, would you change anything? And I'm like, I think the only people that have regret, I mean, not that we don't all regret things we did, but I wouldn't want to change them because I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my life. So if I make a different turn or something doesn't happen, doesn't send me the ways that I went, I may not end up with the things that I have that I love. So I think people that regret are people that are not happy in the situation they're in because they're like, I wish I had something different right now. But when you're happy in the situation you're in, you realize like, man, if I changed anything, I may not get to this spot. So I believe it helped me. It gave me a lot of gumption. I think I used it as fuel. And what I was going to say is I use it the wrong way. For a long time, I was like, I just want to show people that I'm worthy, that I deserve it, that I can do it. No matter if I was fat, I can get a record deal in Nashville. I can make, the all-state powerlifting team and football team. I can go and I ran a Sonic. I was a general manager of a Sonic by 20 years old and ran one of the top 12 Sonics in the nation and competed in the Dr. Pepper games and all this kind of stuff. So I'd done these things and I did it every time because I wanted to show other people that I could do it. But when I was on the show, my mindset flipped, and this is where I really started to change my life. I went from wanting to say "I told you so" to saying "See, you can too." And so when my attitude changed to a "See, you can too" attitude, I wanted to let other people know I'll be the example. I'll use all my hardships and all the things, and that's when I was really when you talked about not wanting to tell your story. I never told anybody that I was beat as a kid. I never told anybody that I went through all these awful things. All I told people was I'm Bigg Vinny and I got a record deal and I did this. That was my identity was in that. And I didn't realize how many people I was harming or at least not helping by not telling my story, by not letting people know that, hey, you don't matter what you were born into, what kind of life you had by accident, or what you got yourself into, what kind of mistakes you made. You can change and you can become something better and different. And I always say you're worth the things you're willing to work for. And I truly believe that. I think if I didn't put in the work on Biggest Loser, which sucked by the way, if I didn't put in that work, I mean, I'd be dead. I wouldn't even be here now. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have my wife. And that was going on 14 years ago now. So,
I mean, that's, with my addiction, mine was about my kids too. And if I kept drinking, I wouldn't have them. I wouldn't be with them. I tell people many times, I said, I don't think I'd be the guy walking my daughter down the aisle if
yeah.
I kept doing what I was doing. I'm not high-fiving my son at a high school football game or a graduation if I kept doing what I was doing, because I probably would have ended up dead or something. I'd be behind bars or something. Talk to me real quickly here as we conclude. Jenny, you're seeing him go through this transition as his wife, as his best friend, as somebody you saw growing up. What would be the one thing that you saw in him that he was really struggling with, but you watched him overcome? What would that be from your perspective, being in his life?
Yeah, so I had a lot of admiration for him watching him on the show and then getting to know him, a few years later. Once we got together, we had a lot of obstacles to overcome. And the one thing about Vinny is he is genuinely always positive. Like it really is who he is. And,
Mhm.
he's helped me, but we've had a lot of figuring it out from the time we got together. I was told I couldn't have kids. 1 month later, we're pregnant, which was amazing. I was we were both so excited because neither one of us had kids of our own. And, so we had to figure out life. Like, what does that look like with you on the road and with me personal training and doing all this stuff?
Well, we had just signed a contract on a house or an
An apartment.
apartment that was on the third floor of an apartment building with no elevator. So we thought that was fine until she was pregnant. We were having to go up and down those stairs and trying to figure out how to carry the baby, get the dogs up, all that other kind of stuff. So, but we figured it out. As y'all say on the show here. But yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of moments and positivity, like what she was saying. I think has been one of the biggest factors. I think when you keep a positive mindset, even when things are bad, you can make them better. But if you have a negative mindset and bad things happen, you just kind of wallow in that bad stuff. And so for me, it's like I know how bad life can be. I know how bad it was when I was that little 10-year-old boy who was having to face a 6'2", Navy SEAL stepfather who went to Vietnam. Like that was my nightmare every single day whenever I was a kid, is having to know that at some point today he's liable to go off and I'm liable to be laying in the floor somewhere. And so I knowing how bad life can be and where I have been, I wake up every day right now to thank you God that I'm not in that situation anymore. You know,
Mhm.
and like I said, even that I wouldn't go back and change what I went through because it gave me a lot of power. It gave me a lot of different traits that I have. Now, I will say this: it gave my brother and sister different traits because I took it and said I ain't gonna be like this the rest of my life. And I think my brother kind of was like, if you can't beat them, join them, kind of thing. And then my sister was just lost, and she's just now starting to kind of find her way. She's got a master's degree. I mean, she's brilliant when it comes to brains, but putting it all into life and figuring out how to work it. But we took it different. We were all different ages, going through that kind of thing. And he came into my life. I was literally 2 years old. I mean, he was, I remembered him before I remembered my real dad. And then my real dad was a musician. He played on the road with Steve Miller Band, David Allan Cole, Loretta Lynn, Alan Jackson, all these people. Came off the road with David Allan Cole, overdosed on black tar heroin. He said he could see his body laying there, and he said, God, if you'll deliver me from this, I'll serve you the rest of my days. The next day he woke up. He never went through withdrawals. He didn't have any addiction anymore. Everything was healed. And he became a preacher till the day he died. The 25th will be 18 years ago. And I learned so much from him after I finally did get him in my life. And probably the person between him and my Granny Bell, the two people that I look up to the most as far as mentors in this world. So,
Wow. Wow. When you were talking and you both were sharing, the line that came to me, write this down if you're going to take any notes. You don't go through things, you grow through things. And many times we go into, you won't believe what's happening to me. We go into victimhood and everything else, but those are growing moments. We talk about it. Chad talks about it many times. Our problems have a purpose. We might not recognize it right now, and we might have pity parties and everything else, but these are the moments that we are growing through something. And sometimes I was watching, Wendy and I were watching the show last night about the Yellowstone and the sequoia tree. And you guys be laughing at me because I'm like writing notes about a sequoia tree because it's going to be in a future podcast. But the sequoia tree, it only grows like 3 feet the first several years of its existence until it hits a point and it's like the bamboo tree. And there's moments when we have doubt. There's moments we don't think we're going to make it. There's moments like, what the hell happened to me? I thought I was going to be bigger. Why am I like this? And we look at all the distractions and all the things around us, but it's all in here. It's all in here. We talk about it many times. I know it's 8:48. So we put all the links in the chat. We put all the links in the chat about that. We also put the video. I want you to listen to the 18 seconds and maybe like the 45-second mark. Listen to the whole song. But I love the words that he has in that time period of the song. Now, real quick, Jenny and Vinny, tell us how they can get in touch with you, what you guys are doing, if they want to work out with you, Jenny, if they want to meet up with you, Vinny. What is it that you guys got that you could share with us today so that way we can click on it and share our audience?
Yeah, so we've actually kind of come together with my company, which is Goforth Wellness. You get all the Vinny motivation, the life coaching. I mean, you get your health right. Like you said, it starts in the mind. So we coach a lot of mindset, not just nutrition and workouts. We test your levels, your hormone levels, and just make sure the whole body, the overall you is where it needs to be so you can succeed, with your goals.
Yeah.
So I'm goforthwellness.com.
Yeah. I'm just biggvinnyofficial.com, which you can see over there on the thing. Everything I do is Bigg Vinny Official. You know, when she says we came together on the company, she was always kind of pushing me like, hey, come in. I was like, no, that's your thing. I'm so proud for you that, that you're doing that. And, as a mom, whenever we got pregnant and everything, and she had the same dreams I had. She wanted to be on the road playing music, doing what she does, and she was going to do that with me. And like we said earlier, all of a sudden things changed. But watching her kind of let go of her identity, let go of her dreams and goals and stuff when we had kids, it changed, a lot of things for her. For me, I still kept going out there. That's how I made my money. So I was still going out doing my dream, love it, and I love my job, So, but watching her kind of let that go and then kind of wander around for about 3 years of like, what am I supposed to be doing? What is my thing? And finally, I think, she found it. We were forced into that situation too, because we worked for a massive online company. She created a program on that company that went gangbusters and sold over 1 million copies at $47 a piece. And they gave her $209 to create it. And then they came to her and asked her to make another one. And she's like, nah, bro, 5%, and realizing they were like, no, and so like we didn't mean anything to them. I watched this woman, I mean, get in her mind. She's like, I'm making my own company. I'm gonna make my own app. I'm gonna make my own thing. I'm gonna help people my own self, all this other stuff. And I watched her create this thing that was 10 times better than the thing we came from. And I've been so proud of her for it. And I was like, no, that's your thing. I'm proud for you. And and one day I told her, I was like, I want to see you do that because that's your thing, And then she looks at me and she goes, yeah. She goes like, but you're my number one thing, and I want you to be part of this thing with me. And she goes, I think you bring a different skill set to the table. She goes, I'm very knowledgeable. I know how to help anybody lose weight. I know how to help anybody reach their goals and all that other kind of stuff. But she said, in order to get your mind right, you get your grind right, you got to get your mind right. She goes, and I need you to come in because you have a way of motivating people. She goes, I can coach them and I can teach them. She goes, but you have a way of motivating people. And that meant a lot to me. And that's when I said, all right, well, let's do this thing. I said, most people were never going to be my size or lift the weights that I lift and probably don't even want to look like me. I'm still a 340-pound man, just a different, fixture of blood and muscle and bones than a lot of people. But, I was confused by that because I thought, I couldn't help them, but she really brought me in. So with that, we came together, we created Overall You, which is inside of the Goforth Wellness deal. And we can help anybody from individuals to all the way to becoming the health and wellness division of people's company. Meaning we do B2B different sales and stuff, but we can become an employee benefit or actually take on the health and wellness of your entire company. So we have all the different facets and way to work with us in that. As far as me, you just go to Bigg Vinny Official. You can find all my links in there and my music, all that good stuff.
Guys, I appreciate you guys so much for sharing. For those that are on here today, for those that watch the recording, all the recordings now are going to be on the YouTube channel, Brock Zevan's YouTube channel. You can get everything there. You can get the Brock Zevan's Mindset Motivational. The show will be recorded. All our show notes are put on here, especially our Figured Out Friday, your guest, all your information, everything that is on here. Guys, put some love in the chat. Put some 5s in the chat. Thank you guys for staying on a little bit later with us today. We appreciate you guys. Jenny, Vinny, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for taking time.
Holla.
Bye, guys.
Much love.
All right, all. Guys, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I will be back Monday morning at 8:15 Eastern Time. I will be your host with Mondays with Maxwell. God bless you all. We'll see ya.